You could be the best therapist in the world, and if you aren't putting at least some thought and intention into how you are connecting with new prospective therapy clients, you may still struggle to build a vibrant private practice. And so on today's episode of Love, Happiness, and Success for Therapists, we are diving into this and how to have them at hello. I'm going to be sharing all my secrets for new client engagement to hopefully support your success. So the goal here is to help you develop these competencies. And this is important to do. Again, I know a lot of therapists and truly incredible therapists who have not just training and experience, but who are genuinely excellent and who do a really good job with people, helping people make change, like all the things, but they can still really struggle to fill their caseloads and have the kind of private practice experience that they would like to have. And again, it's not because they're not good at what they do. It is solely because they have not yet developed the skill set, and it is a skill set, to help prospective clients understand why working with them will be valuable and helpful, maybe even life-changing. And I know what you're probably thinking, which is, Lisa, do not tell me I have to sell myself. I do not like that. And I understand that, because if you're like most therapists, I think that there's a bit of an ick factor when it comes to self-promotion, right? And I get it. But here's the reality, is that if you want people to want to work with you, you have to help them understand why not just therapy or coaching is a good idea in general, but why working with you specifically is a good idea and the right choice for them, if it is, in fact, the right choice. We have to be ethical about this. But today in this episode, I'm going to break it all down for you. I have a bunch of steps, like 10 steps, specific practices and things that you can be doing that will help you create a powerful connection with new clients right from the first interaction, help them understand the value of what it is that you do, understand how you can help them and why it's worth it. And so these steps are simple and they're actionable, but honestly, they are also things that, in my experience, most therapists don't do. Not because they don't want to, but because they literally never learned how. So these are going to help you immediately. Once you start to do them, grab a notebook, get ready to take notes, and be prepared to learn. And also, I would like to encourage you just to be prepared to experiment and be open to doing some things differently. And if I say anything over the course of this episode that you have feelings about, I would also just invite you to think about why that might be. Do some journaling. What is attached to this for you? We're going to grow. We're going to grow here today. Okay, so let's dive right into this. The very first thing that I would like you to just take in for a second is something that I have observed over the years, just in my positions. I'm the founder of Growing Self-Counseling and Coaching. I have worked with so many therapists over the years, and they come into my practice because they want to work in a supported group private practice, which is fantastic. That is what we do. But I and my team often have to work pretty closely with a lot of therapists who are entering private practice for the first time, even in a supported practice, where we're working hard to make sure that they have enough clients and they have consultation appointments booked. There are therapists who will still fail to engage with new clients effectively. Again, not because they're not competent therapists, but because they do not know how to do that. And there's a good reason why, which is that they were trained in agency settings. That is where we were all trained. I did my master's practicum and internship at a college community counseling, at a college counseling center. And then I did my PhD internship at a community mental health center. And I bet you did too, right out of grad school. Where do we go? We go to agencies. And in these situations, particularly as interns or postgrads, clients are just assigned to us. These people, they do not have much choice or agency. They are just assigned to you. And unless they are really unhappy with you, which can happen, but is relatively rare because you're amazing, but they're going to be your clients, like no matter what. And so what that means is that you are never put in a situation where you have to develop the competencies, the skills for how to help clients understand your value, understand your worth, like the idea of working with you, because it's just like a sure thing. Then when therapists leave an agency or their post-grad year and decide to venture forth into private practice, there can be a steep learning curve because in this situation, clients, prospective clients, have a lot of choices. This is an incredibly competitive field. There are a lot of people just like us, me and you. They are all fantastic therapists or coaches. They're accessible through different platforms, right? And when clients start thinking, oh, maybe I should go talk to somebody or maybe I should get involved in coaching, they have an ocean of choices and they are selective, as they should be, right? So when you talk to a new client or prospective client, it is not a sure thing. They are interviewing you and they are curious about you. They are still trying to decide if you're going to be the right person for them, just as much as you're getting to know them. If you're doing this well, you're thinking in a first perspective session, can I be genuinely helpful to this person? And so that is important. Can I be effective with them? But they are checking you out and you need to assume that they have prospective calls set up with probably a bunch of other people. I certainly advise people to do that. Don't just work with the first therapist that you meet with. Interview a few, see who you like the best. That's why it is critically important for you to not approach private practice like you would an agency setting. Because if you do that and just assume that someone has chosen you and you're going to do this and fail to do the things that I'll be teaching you, you're really going to struggle. Other people are going to be more competitive and they are going to do a better job, frankly, of connecting with clients, not because they are better therapists, but because they know how to handle these moments. And you will too after listening to this episode, and your caseload will thank you. Here are the steps. Step 1, engage with people before they show up. So let's just start at the beginning. You can't just wait for clients to magically appear, right? You need to engage with them a little bit before they book a consultation, but also once they do schedule a discovery call or whatever your process is, to make sure that they come to that first call. Because especially if they schedule that, I don't know, a week out, they're still looking at other therapists, right? There are services. It's like, talk to a therapist today. Why should they wait around for a week to talk to you? And I'm not saying that to be inflammatory, but really, like, why should they wait for a week to talk to you when they have all these other options? And so what you need to do here is connect with them pretty quickly so that they are excited to talk to you specifically. And you can do this in a variety of different ways. I think even before somebody books a first appointment, be optimizing your website to make it clear about who you are and how you can help. And particularly if you can create helpful content, so a blog post, something like that can showcase your expertise. And now this is a situation where this is why, I guess I should say, it's very important for you to, on your career trajectory, be thinking about your professional niche, your specific area of expertise, because if you're clear about that and clear about the clients that you are seeking to serve, then when your ideal client lands on your website, they're like, oh, this is for me. Yes, it is. I was looking for you. But you have to have some clarity around what it is that you're trying to do before that. If this is an area of growth for you, I do have a couple of resources for you. You can check out another podcast episode I did a while ago around how to identify your professional niche as a therapist that kind of talks you through this. Additionally, I have another free resource. It's a 2-part training on my website that there's 2 parts of this. It is called A Therapist's Guide to Coaching. It's for therapists who are interested in narrowing their professional niche to coaching psychology, like I have done. That is my niche. I am a therapist who coaches. That's what I do. It goes into coaching, but the whole first part of this is actually an exercise to help you get clear around what your personal and professional goals are. And so whether or not you're interested in coaching, taking advantage of that resource, moving through the first video, doing the workbook exercises can help you get clarity around what it is that you want to do professionally. And then that will help you be able to communicate that clearly and effectively for the specific people that you would like to work with. So that will help increase the likelihood that people will be excited to work with you before they ever meet you. And then additionally, it is really important, I think, in this day and age to offer a free consultation or the opportunity for a discovery call so that people can get to know you a little bit, check out the vibe, and build some rapport, build some trust. Because again, I think that personal connection is really important. But the goal here is to make it easy and inviting for potential clients to connect with you. They should feel like they already know you at least a little bit before they even meet you. But then additionally, once they schedule that first appointment, leave a voicemail. Send an email. Hey, I'm so excited to work with you. I noticed from the thing that you filled out, you're interested in working in XYZ. We could talk all about that on Thursday. In the meantime, here's a blog post that I wrote about XYZ. Just wanted to put it in front of you so they're already like, this is amazing. And that it feels personal and it feels for them like, I'm talking to the right person, and they'll feel good about it. Okay, so that's one really important thing that you can do. And now step 2 of this is in that first conversation or discovery call, it's very important that you are finding out what they want. And it sounds so elementary, but I think there are 2 things that can happen. Sometimes therapists can get very focused on talking about them. This is my degree, my certifications, my qualifications, and that is all important. I think that is part of establishing expertise, trust, authority, that you actually are a subject matter expert, that you're legitimate, and that is all well and good. Or I think too, when we meet with a prospective client, it can become very easy to talk about the problems, like the pain points that led them to come and talk with us. And certainly we do need to understand what isn't working, the issues that they would like to resolve. But it is also really important to help clarify what their goals are for this. And again, I am coming at this from a coaching perspective. So I am a certified coach. I am a trainer of therapists who are becoming certified coaches. So this is baked into my bread a little bit. But what I have seen over and over again is that when therapists go dark and talk about the problems or just stay there, it doesn't really turn into something that people can move towards and feel good about signing up for. It's important to at least do some of this in a first conversation because it creates a goal. And you can set a goal for therapy too, okay? It doesn't have to just be coaching. But these are some of the questions that I always ask people, which is, what are you hoping to get out of this? What is the change you would like to see in your life? Or when our work here is done, what will be different for you? Because here's the sad truth. Nobody wants to go to therapy. Nobody wants to go to coaching. Nobody really wants to do the work and unpack the things and unpeel the onions, right? They don't want to do that. They want to be in a better place personally. They want to have a better relationship. They want to feel happy. They want to feel good about themselves and their life, right? And so It is, yeah, we got to do this work to get there, but where do you want to go? Because this really shifts the conversation from pain points to possibilities and helps them build a vision for the life they want. But also, they're now talking about this work with you and thinking about working with you as being, here's how I'm going to get it, is by doing this therapy or coaching. It's very important that you're talking about that. And now I will say that setting these kinds of goals, like this is not the goal setting process. Like when I do coaching with people, we are doing 4 to 6 sessions on setting doing a lot of discovery work, setting values-based goals. So this is not what I'm talking about, but it's just like high level, broad strokes. What do you want? And then step 3, and this is a step that a lot of therapists skip, is that you have to explain your process. So once you understand where they want this to go, you have got to connect the dots for them and help them understand what your process is and how doing this with you will help them achieve these outcomes. And you have to be specific. So say the work that we do together will focus on XYZ. So say they're coming in, they've been feeling anxious and depressed, and their goal is to feel happy again, to feel peaceful again. So you will say, our work together will focus on helping you identify the thoughts, the feelings, and the behaviors that are all contributing to these emotions or internal experiences that you're having right now. So we'll spend some time together first doing an assessment to understand what is going on. Then when I have more information, I'll be able to start helping you make changes in the things that you do day to day that can impact your mood that you might not be aware of right now, but that really do make a difference. Additionally, we'll be digging into your thinking patterns and styles so that you can get some visibility and some control over the way that you're thinking, and then use those new abilities to help change the way that you feel at the end of the day. And so when we practice this over time, what you'll notice is that you will begin to feel not just less anxiety and depression, but actually an increase in these positive emotions that you are hoping to experience. And that is one small example, and I am pretending to be a cognitive behavioral therapist who specializes in depression and anxiety. But that's how I would describe it to somebody if I was working in that modality for that presenting issue. And I don't know what that is for you, but you need to know what that is. So what is your theory of change? What modalities do you use? What is your process? And then how are you explaining how that process works and how it would help someone achieve their desired outcome? Because if you are vague, if you don't have clarity around how things actually change for people, or even if you're not good articulating that to them, somebody is going to be like, how is this how talking to you about how I feel be any different for me than when I'm like venting about all this to my sister, right? So you have to help them understand. Now, but I will say, here's another key, is that you cannot overpromise, and certainly be honest and be clear about what you can deliver. And be assessing in that first conversation. And if somebody is coming in and says, yeah, feeling anxious and depressed, but like you're talking to them and, oh, there's an eating disorder in here, or there's a substance use disorder, and that is beyond my scope of competence. That is not something that I do. Or they start talking about their career or their relationship, and you're thinking, I really don't have specialized training and experience in couples counseling or coaching. There are people that do. Let me make a referral. And because it's just, there's so much goodwill that is generated. And it is also the right thing to do, because you're not doing any favors by getting a client really excited to work with you, but then really not being able to be trustworthy and effective with them. It's okay. I think it is very noble. It shows a lot of integrity when you're clear about, this is my lane, this is what I do. You want this, and I'm going to help you get that by helping you get connected to somebody who specializes in that, because you're just showing up professionally. You're building trust with them. And you know what? Maybe you're not going to be their therapist, but they might go back to their sister and say, I met a really great therapist who specializes in exactly what you want to work on. Let me give you her number. So I think that matters a lot. Now, it is also important to do things that demonstrate your competence. I would say that this is step 4 of this process of really engaging well with new clients. And I just want to say something that to me, demonstrating competence and professionalism is not just about your credentials or what you know, or dazzling someone with like your intellect or talking about research. Those things are all helpful, and it certainly does help, I think, establish some authority. But I think it's more in how you show up and in these very first interactions and simple things. Am I coming to the session on time? Do I look reasonably professional? Have I taken the time to read the little bit of information that maybe somebody shared with me when they first scheduled this appointment? Do I know their name? Things that communicate I am paying attention and showing that you care. Additionally, just how are you communicating? Are you communicating with warmth, with clarity? Are you interrupting them? Are you listening deeply, responding thoughtfully, and being authentic, being caring? And of course, I'm sure most therapists, like, this is your essential nature, right? So these things are easy to do. But I think I know a lot of warm, caring, compassionate, smushy, fuzzy therapists who are chronically late for sessions and who will leave someone who has scheduled a consultation meeting waiting for 5 minutes, or not sending a welcome email, or even in this day and age, like if you're seeing clients online, just making sure that they have the link, making sure that they're comfy, know how to connect. And these little things go a long way. They're small details, but I think they really establish trustworthiness, which is the foundation of what we do, right? So then another thing that I want you to be thinking about, and this would be step 5, is in that first conversation, there are a couple of other things going on. And whatever you do not attempt to do any therapy or start digging into the work, you would be amazed at how many therapists, I think probably less so coaches, but therapists will just like jump in. And from the very first free introductory call, they're like, oh, your father. Oh, interesting. How did you feel about that? We're already like going into the things. And in my experience, that is generally detrimental to engaging with a new client, is like jumping in prematurely to like trying to do work with them. And remember, that's not why they're here either. This is a first blind date. They are checking you out. They have 5 more appointments with other people, and you're trying to unpack their feelings about their stepmom. No, like that you are not their therapist yet. And if you act like you are, if you act like this deal has been sealed, they have been assigned to you, you're doing this, right? There's a commitment there that doesn't exist. It's going to feel really off-putting. And I think that just to have some awareness into what are we doing here? It's not therapy. We are getting to know each other. We are having a conversation about what we might do together if we did decide to move forward. And so just particularly if you've been socialized in an agency setting from the get-go, like, all right, let's do this, it is not going to work out for you. So just remember that, and do not assume that people have chosen you. They have not chosen you. They are here for the purpose of getting to know you and for you getting to know them. And I will say now, step 5, another very helpful technique is, in addition to talking about what they want and how your process will help them achieve their desired outcomes, it's also important to check in about any concerns or objections that they might have. And so this means not shying away from hard questions, right? If a client has concerns about time or money, or the process, it's very important that you are asking about these and addressing them head on. Maybe you've been talking for a little bit, talking about your process, how that might work. What do you think about this so far? And do you have any concerns about what I'm sharing with you, or concerns about starting therapy or coaching in general? And then listen to what they say. Is there anything holding you back from moving forward with this? Clearly you're interested in this. We wouldn't be talking about it, but finding out just what else is in there. Are they worried about the expense, the time commitment? Are they worried about, you're telling me that you practice internal family systems. That is your modality. And can you tell me a little bit more about this? Is this maybe the things that you're talking about in your session or your consultation session are a little bit different than what they had expected? So see what you can do to create space for their objections, their questions, their curiosities, because it's showing that you care about their experience. It is also helping you address any barriers, but it is also helping you understand more information about what do they really need. Am I the right person to help them? Or is this an opportunity for me to make recommendations that would help them get connected with the right fit? So if you are saying, I am an experiential therapist, I do art therapy and dramatic dance. That is my modality. And so if we do this together, we shall dance. And they're like, I'm kind of more of a cognitive person, and so I don't know if this is really going to work for me. I've been reading online about cognitive behavioral therapy. That sounded pretty good. And so that at least you can have that conversation. And it could be that you are also quite competent in cognitive behavioral therapy. And it could be that it turns into a conversation about what they really want, what you are, goodness of fit, and that is also fantastic. It may or may not result in you developing a connection with this particular client, but again, I think it goes a long way to develop your trustworthiness, your professionalism, your good reputation in the community. But also, in my experience, it has been interesting to me when I ask these kinds of questions to understand what people might be assuming about me or my process or anything about this that is creating internal barriers for them that may not actually be true. Anyway, I could go into a lot of examples, but I just wanted to put that on your radar. And then the next step here, and this is a very important step, and again, one that a lot of therapists don't do, is actually just asking them to move forward. This may sound so obvious, but you need to ask and to be clear and confident when you say, based on what you're describing around your goals and knowing about the work that I do and that it would help you achieve these goals, it sounds like we would do some great work together. How is this feeling for you? And would you like to set up our first session? It is simple, it is direct, and it really works, but it turns into, let's find a time to meet. How are Wednesdays at 4? Let's do that. And that can be a regular time if that works for you. You're really asking them to take a chance and give this a try. Now, so that is the basic framework of things that you can and should be doing in your consultation sessions. But there are other nuances in here. So other things to be thinking about, perhaps when people are telling you about their goals or talking about your approach, is also to be articulating your unique value proposition. And this is where you are helping people understand your strengths. Perhaps you specialize in a certain area, you use a cutting edge approach that makes working with you a little different than working with other clinicians. Or maybe it is just your personality. Maybe you have a lot of warmth and empathic style that sets you apart. But whatever it is that makes you special, it is really important that you own that and that you get comfortable and telling people about that. So let people know what makes you different and why that matters. So, for example, for me, I think that one of the big differences in working with me specifically is because, yeah, I do have a lot of training, education, and experience in couples and family therapy, in psychology, but I am taking all of that and primarily using a coaching framework, which is a very different modality than standard issue therapy. There is a different process. There is a different purpose. There are different interventions. My role as a coach is different than my role as a therapist. And depending on somebody's presenting issue, I can certainly do more psychotherapy. And if that is what is called for, would totally do that. But when someone is interested in creating outcomes in their career, in their relationship, in themselves, that they really want to be more tangible and more felt, and that are not rooted in treating psychopathology or going into a bunch of emotional unfinished business with the past, I'm their girl, because a coaching modality is going to get them where they want to go much more quickly and directly than standard issue, insight-oriented talk therapy. And when I can explain that to people and understand what it means to be a board-certified coach who's also a therapist, they're like, that sounds really good. And it is also very different than what they will experience with many other therapists who have not had that training, education, and credentialing. So that is like my thing. But what's your thing? Think about this. So what makes you different? Is there a specific modality that you really know a lot about? Is there a presenting issue? Is there an approach that you utilize? Is it a life experience that makes you highly effective with certain people? Like, you really need to own that and help people understand, if of course it is relevant and appropriate to what it is that they are wanting. Okay. Additionally, here's another place where you might lose people. Another step in this process is not just happening in the session, but also what happens immediately after that first discovery call in terms of following up with people. And I can't tell you how many times we've had a prospective client say, I met for a consultation with so, and I really liked them. It all sounded great. I would love to work with them, but they never followed up with me. Like, they said they were going to send me some links to fill out some paperwork, but I never saw anything. What's happening? Make sure that not only are your intake forms clear and straightforward and that you're communicating what the process is, but if you just send something to somebody, especially through an online EHR that many of us use, 50-50, that might land in somebody's spam folder, right? Instead of you sending a personal email or even a call, hey, I just wanted to make sure that you got the stuff that I sent you and that we're on for Wednesday at 4. You'll be getting an appointment reminder from me, but I also just wanted to make sure that you have my contact information in case anything shows up. So let's do a little bit of aftercare, because when clients feel supported, guided, like you care about them, you want to make sure they have everything that they need to be successful, it feels good for them. And they're also a lot more likely to follow through. Think about all those clients who probably didn't go through the trouble of calling us to let us know that they didn't get that link. They're just like, I didn't get the link. And I also had consultation meetings with 5 other therapists who were also pretty cool. So I'm just going to go with one of them. So you got to do the things. And then very lastly, I will also say that there are some times when people really aren't ready to book. They have appointments with 5 other people that they want to meet before they decide to commit to you, which makes perfect sense. And so they'll say, we're checking things out right now. I need to think about it, but maybe I'll follow back up with you and schedule. That is fine. And I think it is also important to be following up with these people in a thoughtful way to continue just developing a relationship. So after a first meeting, send a thank you note. Offer something like, oh, here's a blog post that speaks to your thing. Or here's a book that a lot of my clients have found really helpful, and I just wanted you to have it. It does not have to be a book that you wrote or a podcast, a TED Talk, just some little resource to help them be like, oh, that was nice. It keeps them engaged, and I think it also positions you as not just a trusted resource, but someone who cares about them and who's going to be an active partner for change. I think that's what people want. So do not be shy about doing that kind of thing. And then very lastly, have a personal reflection and optimization process, personal/professional reflection and optimization process. Because if something isn't working, meaning that you don't have people booking with you, or you have people booking discovery calls with you, but they don't show up, or they do show up and they're like, let me think about that. Or they're like, yeah, this sounds pretty good. Maybe I'll follow up with you and you book something, but then they never do. All of these things will happen to all of us sometimes. But in my experience, when therapists really put some time and energy into thinking about, what am I doing? What am I showing up? What are my practices? What are my processes? When they are doing all of the things that we just talked about today, they are more likely than not going to be doing a fantastic job of connecting with clients who are really excited to work with them. And so these are all things that you can practice and learn and grow towards mastery. Step one, think about, what of the things that Lisa just shared am I doing? And if I'm not doing these, maybe I need to experiment with some of them to see how that goes. But also, you try doing some of these and you're not getting results, but just be thinking about why. And don't be afraid to ask for feedback from a mentor, from a supervisor, from a consultation group. Get somebody to look at your website with a critical eye. Do some role playing with a trusted colleague. And what do you think is going on here? And be willing to take feedback and to grow, because again, in my experience, and I just say this as somebody who has worked with so many clinicians over the years, some of whom have really struggled with this. It's very important to be receptive to feedback and open to experimenting with doing things a little bit differently. Because if you're like, no, I'm not doing any of that, I don't have time to send welcome emails, or I don't have time to follow up with people, whatever the thing is, the net result is that you may be frustrated in private practice. And the other thing too is that, like, if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, I don't want to do any of that. I do not want to work that hard. I am uncomfortable in selling myself and talking about my unique value proposition, and I don't even know how to begin building a website. It may actually be better for you long-term to be in an agency setting where you don't have to do any of that. It's just like a conveyor belt. Clients just come to you without doing anything. They are assigned to you. They are your clients, and it is a lot easier in that way. Or you could craft a business model that removes a lot of that need to sell yourself or help people understand your values. For example, if you are in network with an insurance panel and everybody wants to use their insurance and you're doing clinical mental health, so this is appropriate. You're not working with people around growth and goals or relationship improvement. It's like, I specialize in anxiety disorders, therefore it's incredibly valid that people are using their health insurance because it is medically necessary treatment. And you are typically having people find you because you are on the list of panel providers from an insurance company. Chances are you are also not going to have to work that hard at any of these things that I'm talking about here today. It's going to be much easier for you because you might be the only person that's open, that's taking their insurance, right? There can be pros and cons of working with insurance agencies and third-party payers in the medical model, and that's all valid. But I tell you what, it makes it much easier in terms of engaging with new clients, to be completely honest. So if you know that this is not a strength of yours and it is not a skill set that you want to develop, I just wanted to let you know that you don't have to. There are other ways of doing this. Anyway, I hope that this was helpful for you, and I hope it gave you some things to think about, maybe to practice, or even to reflect on. Do I have the right personality type to do private practice above and beyond being a good therapist, right? Or what is the right environment for me, long-term or business model? And I have so many more resources for you on this topic and more. I mentioned a podcast earlier, how to identify your professional niche as a therapist. You could check that out. Go to growingself.com. And in the For Therapists section, you'll see it right at the top of my website. Tap on that drop-down menu and you will see the blog and podcast. So Love, Happiness, and Success for Therapists blog and podcast, and you'll find that episode in there. Also, more information about the medical model, if that is something of interest to you, other podcasts and articles related to other aspects of the private practice experience, and then also that free 2-part training that I mentioned related to career clarity, how to identify your professional goals, and then whether or not coaching could be in alignment with helping you attain those desired outcomes or not, whether or not you're interested in coaching. Take part 1. You can find that at growingself.com as well. Okay, so I hope that this was helpful for you today. If you have questions or comments, follow up with me. I'd love to hear from you. You can please connect with me on LinkedIn. Dr. Lisa Marie Bobby, track me down on LinkedIn to say hi. We'll be friends on LinkedIn. And I'll be back in touch next week with another episode of Love, Happiness, and Success for Therapists.